My full name is Lee Russell Howell. I have three last names, Lee Russell Howell. I was born in New Albany, December 10th, 1939. I have two sisters and three brothers. The oldest child is a girl, and there were four boys sandwiched in between, and the younger child is a girl. My oldest sister's name is Anna Lou Turner. My older brother, he deceased now, was named Cottrell Delano Howell. He passed away in 2014. I'm the third child, Lee Howell. And one younger than me is Charles Howell. And my younger brother was named Roland Hayes Howell. And my younger sister's named Carolyn. She's a Carolyn Campbell. Carolyn Howell Campbell. I had an aunt, Minnie Graham. Yes, she's my mother's sister. And she lived we lived in the Pleasant Grove community. And they lived over here going towards our church. And my mother had one sister, her name was Mrs. Minnie Graham. We lived in a rural community where there was farming going on. And we had cows, chickens, different things like that, dogs. So just a regular, I would say a country setting. We lived in New Albany, the city of New Albany at first, and we moved out in a rural area. In about 3 years, we moved back in the city in the same house. When we was about maybe 4th or 5th grade, we moved back to New Albany from the St. Mary community where we went to the church school, St. Mary's School, and we moved back to New Albany to the city school system, and we stayed there till I finished high school. There's a service station on I forget the name of the street, but there's a road that go up through there, and the bypass cut that road in half, and I forget the name of the street, but it's not from the Rainbow. It's that corner, that service station there. There's a road to go up through there. And then we live on that street. And the name of it, I do not know. But we grew up there. And when the highway came, after we had moved, years after we had moved, the highway came and cut that community in half. So we lived in New Albany for years. Then we moved out into Pleasant Grove community after my father passed away. He died in 1956. And we moved out in Pleasant Grove community and stayed there till I finished high school. My mother was born in the Pontotoc County. And my father came from Myrtle. He was raised at Myrtle. And my mother was raised in the Cherry Creek area, out from Acru. And that's in Pontotoc County. My mother was Ella T. Dogans Howell. She was a Dogans, L.T. Dogans.
And your father, his name?
Was Leonard Banks Howell. My father worked at a sawmill. That was where Knott's Landing, there used to be a lumber yard, and that was a sawmill across the little ditch. And my father worked at the sawmill. He rode the carriage where you cut the logs into different sizes of lumber. That's what he did. He was about 5 foot, maybe 3, and weighed about 120 pounds. Little guy. But he did big work. My father had a kidney ailment that caused him to lose his eyesight. And I was the oldest boy at home that could drive, and he couldn't drive because of his eyesight. My older brother was in the Army, and the people had to sign for me to get driver's license at 15. I ain't driver's license at 15 because my father couldn't see to drive. I had to drive. And there was 2 adults who had to sign for me to get my license. One of them was Reverend Earl Collins, and the other one, I'm not sure, that was somebody from my church, but I don't know who it was. But they signed for me, and I went and had the test and passed the test. And at 15, I had a driver's license. And in school, some of the older boys that was older than me that didn't have license, I had to show my license another time to prove that I had driver's license. They didn't believe it. At 15 with driver's license. And my father was, one day he just went out and bought a piano and put it in the house. Nobody knew he was going to buy a piano. So we got a piano. Now my older sister had taken some music, but we didn't have a piano and she didn't get to get her hands going like they should. But she has it in her head. And one day she and my brother and myself laid down across the bed and she taught us the lines and spaces. And that's how our music reading began. And I had a music teacher, my first music teacher was a lady named Mrs. Rosie Shackelford. She was good. And we used to go to church and they played for these conventions and singing conventions. And we used to observe how she could just get a book and turn and play without, just from reading. I said, boy, I wish I could do that. But now I can do that. And I would never forget her, the way she, could play just by sight. And everybody in our house, in our family, if you go to a house, you're going to find a piano or some kind of music instrument. And I went to Russell College on scholarship, my brother and I. And we started taking music. I was a social studies major and a music minor. But after I started teaching, I was doing more music than social studies. I went back and got a BS in music. So I had 2 BS degrees in music and social studies. And then in college, I had some good piano teachers. Mrs. Doxey was in charge of the college choir. And in her early days, she traveled in Germany for 14 years playing for opera stars. Then she adopted a foster daughter, Mrs. Holmes, where she raised her and sent her to school like Juilliard, Northwestern, and Wilberforce in Ohio. And she was also a genius. She was my piano teacher also. Then when I was at Jackson State working on my master's degree in music, I was a voice major at that time until my voice got messed up. And her name was Miss Gladys Norris. And she could stop anytime she wanted to and go to New York, Carnegie Hall, and give a concert. And then in college, I used to go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin every summer and work in school. And I started taking lessons on the pipe organ. Mrs. Maybelle Cleckley. I'm not sure whether she's still alive or not, but she was dynamic. And that got me started on organ. So my music is come from a lot of places. And I wouldn't dare omit nobody. But the one that first gave me my start was Mrs. Rosie Shackelford. She and my mother were good friends. And that's how we got started. And what happened was, I've always been active in church. And we attended conventions, different things, local, state conventions. And then I started attending a national convention. They have it every year at a different place. And I think I was in Indianapolis, and I believe I was. And I played for a minister's seminar, devotion. The minister asked, he said, is anybody here a musician? We need a musician to play for devotion. Nobody said anything. So I raised my hand. He's okay. I played, and that whole week I played for the devotion. And one day I was outside of the door after class, just standing there, and this lady came up to me and said, "Oh, I enjoyed your playing." I said, "Thank you." And she asked me my name, where I was from. I said, "From Mississippi." And when you say Mississippi, I said, nothing good can come out of Mississippi. She says, have you ever thought about teaching international? I said, well, I thought about it, but I've never pursued it. And she said, if I give you an application, will you fill it out? I said, yes. The next day she brought me an application. I put it with my little stuff and came home. And about 2 or 3 weeks, I I ran around. I said, oh, why didn't you fill out this application? Let me fill it out. So I filled it out and sent it back to her. In about a week, I got an answer. She says, we have the class that you wanted was great hymns of the church. I love church hymns. She said, that's not open, but we have one teaching children to sing. Okay? I was doing that in school already. She says, take that course, and when this other class come available, we will transfer you to that. So I taught 1 year the children to sing. They enjoyed it. I'm a man, you know, I was like a father to them. You know, they just follow me around and talk to me after class and everything. They like that. So that next year, the class was named Music in Christian Education. But she said you can include anything you want to in it, in your syllabus, your lesson plan. So what I did was I included every style of music in the lesson plan. But most of us are just on one style of music all the way across. So I included all the styles, and they enjoyed it. And some of the classes were kind of close to each other, and you could hear some of the classes, you know, what they're doing. And we were singing those hymns, and we had good voices, all the sopranos and bass. And one guy in the other class over here heard us singing, and he wanted to leave his class and come and join my class. And that was Wednesday. I said, no, it's too late now. You won't get credit for either one of the classes if you change it now. But he wanted to change from that class and get in my class. So he didn't do that. And then next year, he was in my class. And he went back home to his church and told what a good class he was in. And he was from Shreveport, Louisiana. And then next year, I went to Shreveport and did a music workshop at his church. And I also had a student from Mobile, Alabama. I went there 3 years in a row to do a music workshop. And I taught music in the Congress for 14 years. And I met a lot of folk from a lot of different states that know me, that I don't know their name, but they know me. And out of 14 years, I taught the class. And then later on, they combined some classes because they were teaching some of the same material. And that class was eliminated. And then too, the people saw that I could play. They knew my history. And every year, the Congress go to Germany, and they sent a whole faculty to Germany to teach in German convention every year. One advisor asked me, would I like to go to Germany with them as a musician? I said, yes. And there were 2 other musicians from Pittsburgh. They went also. And for 8 years, I went to Europe, to those conventions. And in 2013, I went to Africa doing the same thing. And I've gone a lot of places because music will carry you a lot of places. I have gone to 14 different countries. I haven't shown the paper, so I had 14 different countries. I have gone to, every time we went to Europe, we went to Paris. So about 8 times I've been to Paris. Brussels, Belgium twice. I've been to the Netherlands twice. I've been to Rome, Switzerland, Czechoslovakia, Poland, all those places. Belgium and just places I've been. I have gone to the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican, the Eiffel Tower. We sang in the Cathedral of Notre Dame. The advisor, we didn't know we was going to do this thing, and our tour guide made arrangement for us to sing. Said we didn't come as choir, but you can always get a choir together. So we got a choir together, and we went to the cathedral, and we sung in the Cathedral of Notre Dame. I had a picture of me directing the choir at Notre Dame. They only allowed 3 performances in the cathedral a year, and they let us sing there the year, which was good. I also, we toured all over Paris, went to the museum, Eiffel Tower, the Tower of Triumph, all those places we went to. went to the Palace of Versailles, which is outside of Paris, about 25 miles. London, we went to the Buckingham Palace. We saw the changing of the guards. We went to the Windsor Castle, and we saw Big Ben. We saw Westminster Abbey, all of the Tower Bridges in London, the rivers. I have gone on 3 cruises down the Rhine River. The Rhine separates Switzerland from Germany. I've gone on one, and the Neckar River, Heidelberg, across the English Channel between England and France, and the Baltic Sea between Germany and Copenhagen, Denmark, the Seine River in Paris. I've been to Venice. And we also went to the city of Pisa, the Leaning Tower. All of that, we saw all of that. And while we were there one year, the bikers came through. I think the last year, the Lance Armstrong was in the race, so we were there, and the bikers came through. And the bikers were supposed to come through at 6 that afternoon, and people were on the street at 10 in the morning with our chairs, in good positions. And we have gone. I went to Poland to the concentration camp, and that's something that's sad. In Krakow, Poland, Auschwitz, you see that on TV when, and all of the things that Hitler did, all of the things that they torture people with, and how they would stack people in barracks, on top of each other, in the beds, like this floor. And people were freezing, they slept in their clothes, and they would starve on their just skin and bones. They would count them twice a day, and some of them would collapse on the ground, and they would leave them there, and they died. And on this cold, they didn't think about moving the body, so when it got warm, they take a bulldozer and did the big trenching. But that's sad. So, but the good things about it, we got a chance to go to the Tower of Triumph, the famous street in London, the Champs-Élysées. That street leads up to the Tower of Triumph. It's about 4 or 5 stories tall. We took the elevator, went to the top of it, and look out over the city of Paris. And what they do, all the cities are painted with the same color of paint. They have an ordinance that you use a certain color of paint, and to look out over the city, it's so beautiful. And then around the Eiffel Tower, they have all kind of, people, bands coming playing underneath it and selling stuff and everything. It's just a little hangout place. Like the tower has an elevator you can go up, and there's a restaurant up there about halfway, and you change elevators and go on to the top if you're not scared to go to the top and look out over the city. And it's a beautiful thing. Music will carry you a lot of places that you never thought you would go. After I had my voice problem, I worried God so much about to heal it. I just worried him to death. I just prayed. But sometimes healing is not solving the problem, but then you'll be able to function with it. So with this voice, I have gone a lot of places that other people probably would have gone. And then too, it's just amazing how I kept asking God to heal it. And I guess he got tired of me. And one day I heard a small voice says, "My grace is sufficient." I didn't pray that prayer anymore. Okay, I said, now what that want me to do, I'll do it. Here am I, send me. No idea he was going to send me to Europe 8 times and to Africa once. That's amazing. So I've been asked a number of times to play for bands. I refuse. Now, why would I take the gift that God has entrusted me with and use it for the devil? I've been playing at my church as a teenager up until I play now occasionally. I'm not the main musician now, but I play occasionally. And I wouldn't dare take it and go playing for a band because whatever God give you, if you use it for Him, He will embellish it. It may seem little, but He will make that little be effective. So that's what I've done with music. Um, I taught piano. I taught people to sing, and I've traveled, and I've enjoyed music. I still do. I never get bored. I have an organ and piano in my house, and it's two things that you need to keep from going crazy: the Word of God and music. Those two will keep you in line if you use them right, because you can be feeling sad. So just singing. Your voice don't have to be the best voice it is, but you enjoy your singing, and sometimes singing is mental. The older people, they used to just hum, not to the words, hum. And I'm one that like all different styles of music. I have so many records. I even have country music. But there's one thing that I don't like. I do not like that steel guitar that goes, I don't like that. But other than that, I have some of all styles. In school, I was teaching music, and the kids don't like a lot of heavy stuff. So I would get the music that they like and teach rhythm, key signature on pitch. They would have to name the instruments that they hear, song that they would listen to. But if you get a lot of classical stuff, they're not going to listen to that. So I would take what they like and teach the same lessons from that I would get. I said, now, what instruments do you hear? What rhythm is that in? Can you tell what rhythm is in? Like that. And they enjoyed it. And sometimes we think that music is all singing. And if a person says, I'm a music major, they think that means piano. All the people that major in music don't play piano. But they think if you say, I'm a music major, okay, we're going to play the piano. And it's maybe a trumpet, violin, or whatever. But we have these ideas that music is just all piano and music is all one style. They ask me, what kind of music do you teach? I said, M-U-S-I-C music. You don't teach style, you teach theory. Once you're in that theory, you can play what else, when you play it, the style will reveal itself. When you read it right, the style will come out. So you don't just major on one style of music. And that's what I tell people now. They get on one style of music and try to make it all, all occasion was that one style. I say it's like taking a pizza and try to turn it into banana pudding. You have a mess on both ends. They try to take these hymns and make gospels out of them. You can't do that because you mess up both of them. So reading is important. That's why I admire the lady who I saw that could just pick up a book and turn to the page, play reading. That's what made music alive. I went to Russell College. I taught school in Oxford, Columbus, Tupelo, New Albany, and Holly Springs. I retired in 1995 from Holly Springs.
Okay.
So I went around in a circle
Yeah.
and teaching music and history. I didn't teach music in Auburn. I worked in the JPA program, what is it? School for the kids who had dropped out of school. I started school when I was 4 years old. At that time, they didn't have early childhood. They had pre-primer, primer, and then first grade. I was 4 years old when I started school. My older brother started school. He was 6. I started till I was 4. And Miss C. Ford, Miss Vonnie Kimmer's mother, she was always teaching the beginning. She was a genius with kids. And I was so small that they nicknamed me Baby Howell. And some of the guys kept that going to after I was grown. Billy Ball here, you see his We were friends. And he kept that going on until he died. I remember when I was in Annapolis with my cousin working for or something. He lived there at that time. And he saw me, oh, baby, how? So they kept that going a long time. So my first schooling was in New Albany. I was 4 years old. It was like BF4 school just now. I remember it was junior county training school. What it was before then, I don't know, 1958. I remember I had teachers like Mr. Gibson's English. Miss Inez Ford taught biology and math. Coach Kennedy taught social studies. And then Mr. Woodruff taught workshop. And the ladies had, they took home economics. There was a lady named Miss Lockhart and Miss Hamilton. And then the elementary schools like Miss Geneva Wade, Miss Mary Howard. She was a Morris at that time. Miss Mary Bramlett, Miss Guyton, and Miss Ford. You know, I remember those. Miss Gibson, I didn't take piano from Miss Gibson, but she taught piano to other kids. Now, Miss Inez Ford taught my brother. Miss Inez Ford was a good musician, but people didn't know that. But she taught my brother. She got him started. And then Miss Rosie Shackelford got me started. And we went from there. And with the Russell College, he majored in music. And I minored in music. Didn't want to do the same thing, you know. So, but we end up all musicians. He taught me, he's in Greenville now, and he's retired.
Do you ever wonder what made your dad buy that piano?
I don't know. I don't know what him and God talked about. Maybe he saw something in us that we didn't know that we had. And he just bought a piano. And the sad thing, he didn't live to hear us play. My mother did. He passed away before we learned. But he started. I think about a person who plant a seed and somebody else reap the harvest. And every time I play, I think about my dad. I have this picture now on the organ, Leslie. You know, he's smiling. As I say, he still hears. I've only had 2 pianos in my life. My mother bought a piano in 1957. I have it in my house today. I keep it tuned. And so, and everybody in my family has come up with that piano. I wouldn't set it for nothing now. I could have bought a piano a long time ago, but I'm keeping, it's a big upright, and I keep it tuned, and it sounds good. I keep it tuned with the organ. It's in my house now. She gave $150 for it in 1957, and it's in my house now. I've had some tragedies in my life. Let me go back to the first death in my family was my father. He died. Then 1964, I got married on May 31st, 1964. And 26 days after that, my mother passed away. We was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I had a summer job. We had got married, and my wife and I went to Milwaukee. Okay, we was at a ball game. At that time, the Braves was from Milwaukee. They were the Milwaukee Braves. And we went to see Hank Aaron and Tommy Aaron, and we was in to see them play. And about the 3rd or 4th inning, they stopped and said, "Well, Lee, Russell Howell will come to the Braves dugout." I said, "Don't nobody here know me." I said, "Well, maybe they're gonna sign me with the Braves," just joking, you know. And somebody had called my aunt from down here and told her what happened. And she called the stadium, and one of the security guards escorted me to the phone. And she told me about my mother had passed. She had a massive heart attack. She was 54 years old. I had been to that ballpark a lot of times, but I got just so turned around. This is my wife's first time being there. And she had to take me by the hand and lead me out of that ballpark to a street, to a bus stop. And we on the bus, it was all I could do to keep from just screaming on the bus. And when we got to where we had to change buses, got out, I just went down on the street, hand and knees, and just screaming. People crowded around, you know. And then she wrote a letter to me that Wednesday, and she mailed it. She died that Friday. I got the letter this Saturday morning. I started not to read it, but I said, let me read it. But one phrase, and she was kind of fussing at me about not writing, and she said, I'm not going to write you anymore. And that phrase stayed with me because she had passed away. And I got it, the letter, after she had died. Okay, that was in 64. In 72, in 67, our first daughter was born. She was 5 years old, and my wife and I were expecting our second child. My wife was in her 8th month, and something went wrong, and they rushed to the hospital, and the baby was still born. And 9 days later, the wife died. So my wife died from childbirth. She was 31. I was 32. Okay, I'm left with a 5-year-old girl. And I want to tell men to learn to do some housework, because I was mother and dad to a 5-year-old. I had to cook for her, make sure she was bathed. I got her clothes for her, combed her hair, and I would take her to early childhood, and I would drive to Tupelo to work. And when I come back, she would ride the school bus to a neighbor's house of mine with their kids and get off, and I would come back and pick them up. And I'm glad that my mother taught me how to wash and cook. I iron my own clothes. My wife don't iron my clothes for me now. She would, but I've been doing this since high school. I did it through college, and I do it now. And to these men that think that housework is only for women, they live in the house too. So they need to learn that, because you never know who's going to die first. The death to us poor didn't say who was going first. So I knew how to cook, how to do all of that. It wasn't easy, but I did it. Then later on, I remarried to a nice young lady named Miss Ann Johnson, Annie Purr Johnson. And she has helped. She took my daughter as hers. And in 1976, we had a daughter, me and her, the daughter. They're both grown now. My younger daughter lives in Madison. I'm from Jackson. She works in Jackson. Had a nice home, nice husband. She's a paralegal, nice job, making good money. And I'm proud of her. And my older daughter is an instructor at Northeast Junior College. She did medicine. She works with all these diseases and things. Proud of her. So they are doing well. And that 5-year-old is now an instructor at Northeast. And sometimes I look at her and I almost have to turn my head to keep her from seeing tears running down my face, because knowing when a mother died, the hardest thing I have ever had to do in my life was to take my 5-year-old daughter and look her in the face and tell her that her mother was dead. That's the hardest thing I ever had to do. And I hope nobody else ever had to do it. But that was something. But we got over it. I'm happy now. I have one granddaughter, 18 years old. She's going to school at Tupelo High. She's on the track team, and she's a star on the track team, and just, she played violin in the school orchestra, and just everything's just going fine. And we've gone through a lot of stuff, but you can't dwell on the bad. Rather than being bitter, it makes you better. And the things I've gone through, they were hard, but it made me a better person. And I thank God for it. Sometimes we say, well, if this hadn't happened, but that's what get you where you are now. You can look back and see where you come from. And those days with my daughter and me, those are some valuable, proud days when I look at her now and see her when she was 5 years old. Her mother passed away, and that was, God bless us. Her name is Rosalind Singleton. Now some of us students may be listening. Miss Singleton is my daughter, and she doesn't play. It's 4 things that's absolute: music, math, medicine, and the Word of God. Those things you can't deviate, you can't subtract from. Now, she was saying that some of the kids think they can copy and cheat when you take it. She said, I suppose you cheat, somebody cheat, and they dunked on your grandmother or your mother when they have cheated and done what they're doing. So now, they get mad at her for being strict. I said, well, tell them, but you just like your dad, I was the same way, and you say the same way. They look at me and say, oh, yeah, there you come. So you have to be strict now, but in the long run, they will appreciate it. Because you can't mess up in medicine. And they flunk the class, you can't bring the teacher because you know, you have to do it. So she's at Northeast, I'm proud of her. She had a nice husband, he was a chef. Come in from school, he got food done. We call it Goose Holiday, yeah. They called New Albany where the school was up on the hill. We used to play basketball with the Goose Holler against the hill. We would have some rivals basketball, yeah. All Pleasant Grove, they used to, a long time ago, they used to call it Mitchell Switch. I think a long time ago there was a train used to come through there. That's where if I was born, I guess. And they called it Mitchell Switch. And some of them just said Mitchell. But the church was called Pleasant Grove. And they called it the Pleasant Grove Community. But the older people knew about the Mitchell Switch name. And but the church is Zion Chapel. The church used to be called Little Zion years ago. And they changed the name to Zion Chapel. But some of the older people would still say Little Zion. And they had a school there. Every church had its own school. And they used to play baseball against each other, basketball. And they have, used to have those picnics, at different places. We were already in the city schools, but I remember some of the county schools, kids started coming to school in New Albany. Yes, like Red Hill community, the Oak Grove community down Harvey, the Waterville area, they had a school, and all those kids, Beaver Dam had a school, and those kids came into New Albany. We were already there, but they came into New Albany when they consolidated. We had a lot of new classmates. New Albany had one of the best basketball teams, men and women. Basketball was really a thing going on in New Albany. And then some of the schools, some of them had baseball. The baseball team slowly faded out, but the basketball stayed. Basketball and football stayed in. I couldn't stay after practice because I rode the school bus, and I couldn't ride a car to school every day. So I didn't play in high school, but I played 1 year in college, and it was taking up so much time. I didn't want to lose my scholarship, so I stopped. I went to a junior college first. I played in junior college. I went to a junior college first, then I transferred to Russ. What happened was the junior college was not certified by the state. And when I transferred, I lost a whole year because the school was not certified by the Southern Association. See, I would have finished college in 1962, but I lost a year because of my transferring. It didn't seem fair, but I had good grades, and then they only accepted half my credits. It was a West Point MI college. It was a ministerial college and a college. And they had colleges, they had class for ministers at night. And it was a college, it was a ministerial institute, that's what we call it, Minister Institute in college. I don't know where the name Mary Holmes came from, but Mary Holmes and MI was the two junior colleges in Westport when I was going there. Mary Beasley, we were classmates. Miss Anita Ivy, I don't know what her married name is, but she was an Ivy then. I have a Hazel Williamson. She's here. She lived in Annapolis a long time, and she's back in Northern now. Hazel Williamson, and there are a lot of people that's not in New Albany. But Miss Beasley is one that I see every so often. She's here. Anita Ivy, and one just passed away. Miss Lorraine Golden just passed away not long ago. She was in New Orleans. She was a classmate of mine. But there's not many of them here now. 3 or 4. I don't know how they felt about it, but you have to go with what's going on. The schools change. You have to go. So whether they liked it or not, I don't know. Now, my sister-in-law was in school at Daniel during the time of immigration. And she told me about, sometimes with name calling and different stuff, they happened. But I was ages above her, so they talk about it, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. But when I was there, the school was all black. And immigration happened after I graduated. I remember Mrs. Mary Howard had a hotel. The Gibsons had barbershops. And there was a couple of ladies had beauty shops. There was Miss Corey Bryson, she was Corey Starks at that time. Then there was a couple of ladies. Miss Fanny Dye had a restaurant downtown here. And who else? That's just about all I can remember now. Barbershops and cafes. Bud Turner had a cafe over here behind Park's old garage place there. And that's it.
Did you ever go to Bud Turner's?
Slipped and with you. Don't tell nobody. He was a black man. He was an excellent cook. He was, and he cooked. He had a cafe down here, and people would just run to this place for his food. I know when at churches, when people used to bring food to church, he was on the man that would bring his box of food. The rest of them would be ladies, but Bud Turner would have his box. And he was a dynamic cook. He was known for his cooking. And that's how he had the cafe down here. But sometimes the folks that went there would get kind of rough, And we were told the kids, don't y'all go there. But that didn't matter. Beans, chicken, anything that they needed, he wanted. He was just, he had good hamburgers and all kind of stuff. What they call soul food, anything, just anything you wanted, he could fix it. Mostly on Saturday nights, yeah, when people, they worked all the week and they come to town once a week, that kind of stuff. They would migrate between Gibson's Barbershop. There were 2 cafes, Gibson's Barbershop and 2 cafes, beauty shop. They would come down this way to Bud Turner's place. And there would be a lot of traffic between the 2 places, I had a cousin named Leon Pinson on guitar. He was half blind. He wasn't completely blind, but he played guitar. And I knew a lot of people that played guitar. I knew a brother Thomas Dozier and his wife used to sing. He played guitar and she sang that thing together. And he was closely related to my mother. And he would always come around and always hit his guitar. He would stay with my aunt many sometime, and he would come sometime and stay a night or 2. And he never married, so he was, I don't know whether he was a traveler. Because when he died, he was in Cleveland, Mississippi. He lived a lot of places. But he would come around, and visit and bring his guitar with him and play and sing. I remember my first cousin stayed with us a while, young guy, and he actually taught him how to sing. Leon taught him how to sing. And later on they moved to Detroit, but he was around. A lot of folks learned how to sing with him.
What kind of music did Leon Pinson
He was
sing?
used to church music, all strictly church music. He was not a blues guy, strictly church music. My mother her father was a 6-footer. My grandfather was a music teacher on my mother's side. I never knew him. I was too young to remember him, but I heard him talk. He used to go around different churches teaching folks music. And I think that's where some of the music in our family came from. Because everybody in our family either play piano or play some kind of instrument or sing.
You and your siblings ever play together, or
Yes.
like kind of like a band?
No, not a band. We played church together, church music. My brother and I was a church musician for years in Zion Chapel. And we went to college. We would, come back and play. I remember we grew up in the church musician, me and him both. And we never played blues. I could, but that was never my thing. And I don't criticize the one that do it, but that was just never my thing. Because blues and church music is close related. Because most jazz musicians are the church musicians too.
They got their Saturday night gig and their Sunday
You're
gig.
right, yeah. So those things are close related. So I like for people to know my story. Can't nobody tell your story better than you. So a lot of times people live and die, and that story not been told. So I just enjoy telling my story to you and let people hear my story. Sometimes we look at people and we judge them, but we don't know what they've done.
Right.
And I think this interview today told a lot of people that didn't know about the things I've done. They see me all the time, but they never know.
Right.
I've had some tragedies and I've had the good times too, so I take them both.
Yeah.